Hello and welcome to this enhanced learning session for BTEC Music. This is Half Term 2, Learning Session 2, Recording Drums. Before we continue, can you make sure you have the following items: a pen, a pencil, paper to write on, your knowledge organiser if you have one. Pause the video now while you make sure you have these items. We'll begin with a short recall activity. Can you answer these questions on your paper? Question 1. The person who records a band operating the mixing console and computer is known as what? Question 2. What is a company known as who put music onto streaming sites such as Spotify and put CDs into shops to sell? Question 3. Which organisation collects money for the artists when their music is performed on radio or TV? Question 4. What is close miking? And question 5. What is distance miking? Answer those questions now. Okay, and the answers to these questions? The person who records a band operating the mixing console and the computer is known as the sound engineer. What is a company known as who put music onto streaming sites such as Spotify and put CDs into shops to sell? That's a distributor. Which organisation collects money for the artists when their music is performed on radio or TV? That's the PRS, Performing Rights Society. What is close miking? That's where a microphone is placed close to the sound source. And what is distance miking? That's when a microphone is placed further away from a source. Today's learning objective is to know how to mic up a drum kit in the recording studio. Can you write that down on your paper, please? The learning objective is to know how to mic up a drum kit in the recording studio. Our success criteria is to describe how to mic up and record a drum kit. This is a photograph of a drum kit that's been mic'd up in a professional recording studio. You can see all the microphones around the drums, plus the overheads over the top of the drum kit. Looks quite impressive. Let's look at the various parts of a drum kit. You have a kick drum, the snare drum, tom-toms, hi-hats and cymbals. The kick drum is the large drum at the front, the snare drum, tom-toms, hi-hats are the two cymbals and the two large cymbals at the top. Okay, the main parts of a drum kit are first of all the big drum, which is a kick drum. And this is played with the foot. The next main drum is the snare drum. That's this drum. Now what makes it a snare drum is underneath what looks like metal chains are actually snares. So when you hit the snare drum, it makes a very distinctive sound. These smaller drums are tom-toms, and this drum kit has two tom-toms. Some drum kits have 3 or even 4. You have a high tom-tom and a low-pitched tom-tom. This is the hi-hat, 2 cymbals that hit together with the foot. You can play with the foot or with the stick. Then we have 2 cymbals. Most drum kits have at least 2 cymbals. One is a crash cymbal, makes a crash sound, and the other one is a ride cymbal, which you usually hit around this area here. Okay, on your paper, I'd like you to list the 6 items found on a drum kit. Pause the video while you answer. And the answer is kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats, tom-toms, and cymbals. Green pen those answers now. This is a boom microphone stand. What makes it a boom stand is this arm, which extends from the upright part of the microphone stand. This arm can extend and makes it easier to place the microphone over the top of instruments or in between other pieces of equipment. So that's a microphone boom stand. When recording drums, more microphones are needed than when recording most other instruments. Some of those mics are close and some mics are distance. The minimal mics required to record drums are kick drum mic, snare drum mic, and 2 overhead microphones. That's a stereo pair. A stereo pair are usually 2 identical microphones, one for the left speaker and one for the right speaker. Stereo means 2, left and right. So the kick drum is usually a close mic. In the bass drum, in the kick drum, if it can be put in the kick drum, if there's a skin on the front, then it can be right up to the front of the skin. The snare drum mic over the snare drum is another close mic. And then the 2 overheads, stereo left and right, are distance mics. At St Matthews, we use an AKG D112 microphone. It's a large diaphragm microphone and it's a dynamic microphone. It's good for picking up bass frequencies, so it's good for low-pitched instruments like the kick drum or bass guitar or double bass. This microphone is placed in front of the bass drum. If the bass drum has a hole in the front, then it can be placed in the hole. For miking up a snare drum at St Matthews, we use a Shure SM57 dynamic microphone. These are quite directional and you need to get them quite close to the sound. So a snare drum mic is quite close, not quite touching the skin and pointing towards the centre of the drum. So that's the microphone for the snare drum, a Shure SM57. Over the top of the drum kit, we have 2 condenser microphones. These are used to pick up the sounds of the cymbals and the tom-toms and the overall sound of the drum kit. These are small condenser microphones, and we use 2 of the same when we use a stereo pair. A stereo pair means there's 2, one for the left speaker, one for the right speaker. So one is over the left side of the drum kit and one is over the right side of the drum kit. We use the boom stand to get them right over the top of the kit. These are Samson CO2 microphones. Microphone cables have 2 ends. There's a female end with the holes and there's a male end with the pins. The female end connects to the microphone and the male end connects to the wall box. This is the wall box. All the microphones connect to the wall box. The kick drum to number 1, the snare drum to number 2, the overhead left to number 3, and the overhead right to number 4. Once all the microphones are connected, the signals run down this large cable and into the control room. It then connects to the audio interface, which means all these 4 microphones can be recorded on the computer. Okay, on your paper, I'd like you to copy the following table and choose which microphones are for which part of the drum kit. So on the drum kit, you have the kick drum, snare drum, overhead left and overhead right. Copy them into your table and then choose whether you have the AKG D112 or the Shure SM57 or the Samson CO2 microphone. add them to your table and pause the video while you answer. And the answers to those are: the kick drum is the AKG D112, snare drum is the Shure SM57, and both overheads are a Samson CO2 microphone. Green pen those answers now. Okay, on your paper, can you answer this question? How do we describe the two ends of a microphone XLR cable? Pause the video while you answer. How do we describe the two ends of a microphone XLR cable? And the answer is male has 3 pins and the female end has 3 holes. Okay, on your paper, can you answer this question? What is this piece of equipment called? Pause the video while you answer. And the correct answer is a wall box. Health and safety. Think safety at all times when in the recording studio. The biggest hazard when recording drums are trip hazards. You can see from the photograph lots of microphones with lots of microphone cables strewn around the drum kit and around the room. Microphone cables can be running all over the place. Make sure the microphone cables are wrapped carefully around the microphone stand so they're not dangling down so people can trip over them easily. It's very important that people behave appropriately around the equipment. There's lots of very expensive equipment that can be damaged very, very easily. Okay, on your paper, can you answer the following question? What is the biggest hazard when recording using microphones? Pause the video while you answer. And the correct answer is trip hazards, specifically microphone cables. Okay, copy out the following sentence and fill in the missing words. Make sure blank, blank are wrapped carefully around blank stands. Pause the video while you copy out the sentence and add the missing words. And the correct answers: make sure mic cables are wrapped carefully around microphone stands. Close and distance miking. Mics can be placed close to the instruments or at a distance. For example, a snare drum mic is close miking. The microphone is placed close up to the sound. Drum overhead microphones are distance miking, where the microphone is placed much further away. Okay, on your paper, can you copy out the following sentence and fill in the missing words? Mics can be placed blank to the instrument or at a blank. For example, blank drum mic is close miking. Drum blank are distance miking. Pause the video while you answer. And the answers are: mics can be placed close to the instruments or at a distance. For example, kick drum mic is close miking, drum overheads are distance miking. And we're going to finish today with a short recall activity. Can you write these answers down on your paper? Question 1. Which drums needs to have a microphone? Question 2. How many overhead microphones are usually used on a drum kit? Question 3. What is Unit 6 all about? Question 4. Can you name any equipment you would be using in Unit 6? Question 5. What is important about health and safety when recording a drum kit? Can you answer those 5 questions now and pause the video while you answer? And here's the answers. Which drums need to have a mic? The kick drum, snare drum, and overheads. How many overhead microphones are usually used on a drum kit? That's 2. That's a stereo pair for left and right. Question 3. What is Unit 6 all about? That's recording music. Question 4. Can you name any equipment you will be using in Unit 6? Any of the following: computer, audio interface, mixing desk, microphones, monitors, speakers, keyboards, headphones. Question 5. What is important about health and safety when recording a drum kit? That's making sure there are no trip hazards. And that's the end of today's enhanced learning session. Thank you.